This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, also my photography website, and you can also email me from my website if you have any comments or suggestions or questions or guests you'd like to have on the podcast. Send me a note, and you can also sign up for my weekly newsletter there and see anything that I can't quite fit into a podcast or updates to a podcast or anything like that. All of that is in my newsletter, which typically comes out early on Sunday mornings. So all of that is available at hikingbob.com. Also, if you'd like to support the podcast and kind of help pay the bills, which we always appreciate that, you can do that at Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob. Today I have a very special guest, an old friend and somebody who's well known to people who are involved in either politics in Colorado Springs or aware of that, or visit businesses in downtown, or familiar with the outdoor recreation part of things in Colorado Springs and environmental concerns. It's Richard Skorman, and we're here to talk about his newest endeavor, Richard's Rubbish Roundup. Hi, Richard.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me.
And thanks for doing this. So thanks for being on the podcast. And we're going to cover kind of a lot of things here. You've been very active in Colorado Springs for many, many years. You've been here a long time. You own Poor Richard's, now Rico's.
Little Richard's,
and then Rico's.
And then Decrepit Dick's. No, I'm just kidding. I'm getting older.
But your new place is Rico's.
So we have Rico's Cafe and Wine Bar.
There you go.
Little Richard's Toy Store.
Yep.
Poor Richard's Restaurant.
There you go.
And Poor Richard's Books and Gifts.
There's obviously a common theme there.
There's a common theme. A lot of it should be Poor Patricia's, because my wife Patricia is my full partner and handles all the retail, which is a really complicated part of the business.
So we know who's really the brain behind everything.
She's the good business person. I'm just the cook.
I got it. Perfect. So, Richard, you've been involved in so many things. Like, as I mentioned, you were on city council for many years, and you've been involved in a lot of things environmental. You and I sometimes end up at the same meetings, talking about parks and recreation and things like that. So this is a little bit different. You've organized groups or a group or a large bunch of people to go out and pick up rubbish.
That's right.
What is it you guys are doing out there?
Well, we actually began in October when we had a group for Creek Week, the great project that the Fountain Creek Watershed District does. And afterwards, we were all down here for pizza and beer, and everybody said, why can't we do this every week? Why does it have to just be once a year? And boy, it sure needs it. And we went to Prospect Lake and filled up lots and lots of bags. So we said, sure, well, let's do it. And we've been sponsoring it. Patricia and I have been sponsoring it ever since. Once a week, every Tuesday, we meet, and it's 4 to 6 in the summer and 3 to 5 in the winter. And we are getting more and more people. So as many as 45, 40 people might come on a Tuesday afternoon, and everybody picks up 3 bags. And it's a lot of garbage out there, a lot of litter. And so we decided, this person that works for us who's a wine expert, Sonia Walker, and we hired another person, Mariah Dell'Audio, who's our administrator. And we put together this nonprofit organization, richardsrubbishroundup.org. And it's quite an adventure, because we are learning that there are problems all over. And it's not just the areas around the homeless camps, but certainly all the stream areas. And that's a big passion of mine, because I was one of the founders of the Fountain Creek Watershed District. I got elected in 99. The first week was the horrible floods of 99, and the city had to dump tens of millions of gallons of raw sewage into Fountain Creek. And I was down there with, hundreds of angry ranchers and farmers in the lower Arkansas Valley, La Junta, and those places. And it really hit me hard that we have this beautiful area, and we have this river now, Fountain River, that pours brown, soil from Colorado Springs and garbage into the clear Arkansas River that is going into the northern Pueblo. And that goes to the Gulf of Mexico, but before it goes through 180 water treatment systems and probably 10,000 irrigation systems or more. And we are the source. So Fountain Creek really, begins up above Woodland Park, and Monument Creek up above Monument, and it gets clear mountain water,
Till it hits
trout.
Till it hits this big city here.
Yeah. And then everything that goes through our drains, off our rooftops, on our lawns, and then especially across all of our impervious surfaces, ends up into Fountain Creek. Fountain Creek originally was just meant to, be a nice little creek that ran for maybe 6 months of the year, and otherwise not a river of pollution. And it's got a high E. coli count. It's got high PFAS. And you think about all the ways that it could be an advantage in the community. It could be an asset. And it's not just Fountain Creek, but Fountain Creek has 54 major tributaries in El Paso County. And lots of small ones, lots of little creeks. And so what we do here is we, have everything go into them, and it's, good for all of our storm runoff. It floods when we have rain events in the summer. And then, lo and behold, we ignore them. All the tributaries, all the creeks. It's a place for garbage. It's where the homeless hang out. There's weeds down there. Nobody pays attention. So there's an ulterior motive in this Richard's Rubbish Roundup. And I'll get into the details of this soon.
Okay.
But the ulterior motive is to figure out how we can get this community of outdoor lovers. And we are. We are a place where people just, really cherish what's precious and what we all love about living here, to embrace the waterways, not to ignore them, not to turn their backs to them, and to start to take ownership. Maybe do some weed control in there. Maybe, after the garbage is picked up, maybe go in and figure out if there are good wetland species to plant in there. Good. Because we have a real shade problem in Colorado Springs, urban canopy deficit. So, I know you asked one quick question, and I'm going on and on.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good to hear where it's coming from.
But, and then I can certainly explain, more about Richard's Rubbish Roundup, which I think is a very important first step.
So, as you were telling us all about this, and you're right about, I remember the flooding in '99 and how bad it was, and it instituted a lawsuit by Pueblo and places downstream against the city and required the city to spend millions and millions and millions. I forget how much it was, an ungodly amount of money, but we had to meet our responsibility to not just dump whatever it was down the creek. And like you said, it goes to a lot of water treatment plants, but also is farm irrigation and stuff like that had to be taken care of. I remember those times, and it was difficult times for the city to figure out how to pay for all that. And we're, under the threat of lawsuits, and, it was ugly times, but it had to be done. We couldn't just be irresponsible with how we were treating the water and how we were treating the creek, which, like I said, it's not a creek anymore. It's a river.
Right.
It's pretty big. So let me ask you this. The Rubbish Roundup, do you focus on, when you go out on Tuesdays, just areas along waterways, or are you going into parks or urban areas? Where are you going when you do these?
Everywhere.
Okay.
And it's not just Tuesday anymore. We now have organized groups all over the region, and not just the city of Colorado Springs. So in many cases they are parks, trails. We've gone up to the Midland Trail and done major cleanups up there. We've gone to areas in the Santa Fe Trail where the homeless are, and up north, up by the Costco shopping center, and just anywhere where we are needed. And what we want to do is get people to call our hotline, and I'll get that number for you in a minute.
Okay.
Because my 72-year-old brain doesn't remember.
I'll add it to the show notes, if nothing else.
But we want everybody from the whole region to call us and tell us where there are problems. Mm-hmm. And if they want to organize a little rubbish roundup group, we would love to give them everything they need to safely and efficiently pick up litter. And so we have become the experts. Not that there aren't other experts out there like Keep Colorado Springs Beautiful or the Fountain Creek Watershed District and the city of Colorado Springs. But we want to make sure everybody's safe and productive and that everything they're doing is kosher. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes, you want to pick up litter, but it's on private property. Sometimes you want to pick up litter, but you don't have a place to park. Sometimes you want to pick up litter, but you don't know where to put the needles that you pick up and how to do that safely, or where just to dispose of the garbage.
Right.
So we want to be that organization that gives everybody everything they need wherever they are and make it the cleanest city in metropolitan area, region, whatever you want to call it, in the state, maybe the country.
Excellent. So you kind of mentioned this. So if somebody comes to you and says, I want to organize a rubbish roundup, my neighborhood park is a mess. And we'll talk about government, how you work with the government on this, so I'm not picking on anybody. But they say my neighborhood park's a mess. And it could have been, there was a party there, and the people who did the party weren't responsible, and they left the place a mess. They come to you, they say, I want to clean up my park. You provide them with bags, gloves. What do you provide them with so they can go out and do it?
Yeah, pickers.
Okay.
So we have these long-armed pickers. Bags, gloves, cans for needles if it happens to be that kind of an area. Real strict instructions about how to handle all that. A dog poop scoop. And so people aren't handling these things with their hands. In some cases, we have whistles. We insist that everybody sign our document that says that they can only go out in pairs and that they have to be safe. And then we make sure that they have, if they need it, cleats. So they're going down a hill to get the garbage. And we even have waders and special fish nets to go into streams. Now, it's not something we encourage people to do all the time, especially in a summer afternoon when it's raining.
Yeah.
But most of the streams here are pretty easy to get into. And so we hope that we can kind of guide people, but we also want to make sure that what they're doing is communicated to other people. So it may be that the city's park department's going to go out there, the next day after they call, and that this group is going to organize to go out and clean that's already cleaned. Maybe the city's hot team, or maybe the neighborhood services that deals with all the cleanups, or stormwater enterprise, maybe they need to know what you're doing and where as well. Right. Or maybe there's a private owner that needs to know why somebody's on my property and what they're doing. So all that is what we want to provide to make it as easy and safe for people to volunteer. And in many cases, it doesn't require, 25, 30 people to all get together. Some cases it does. Mm-hmm. When that happens, we want to make sure, everybody's organized, and then we want to find a pizza party for them afterwards. Because that bonding is really, really important. And everybody loves what we do here. Patricia and I are willing to do it as much as we can. But maybe there's a, pizza place out in your neighborhood that could be asked to, give some discounts or, half-price beer, whatever it is. People need to get together and celebrate afterwards because it is a great thing that we all care. Nobody's paying us to do it. And we have to keep this clean because we love this place.
Great. This sounds awesome. I mean, it just sounds great that you that you have so many people who are willing to go do it. It's not only is it a great idea, everybody comes up with great ideas. I come up with a lot of ideas. Most of them aren't very good. But that you've got so many people who are signed on to this to say this is really something I want to do. There could be the argument made that why isn't our city government, our county government, why aren't they doing this? Talk about that. How come it's gotten to the point where a group of great volunteers that you've organized have to do this and our government agencies that we pay taxes to aren't able to do it?
Well, they are doing it.
Okay.
But they're overwhelmed.
Okay.
So there's a great group out there, Keep Colorado Springs Beautiful. Trails and Open Space Coalition has Take a Bag with You when you hike. Fountain Creek Watershed District does great cleanups all the time, not just once a year, but many other times of the year. And the city of Colorado Springs actually has dedicated funding to do this on a regular basis, a significant amount of money from the general fund. I can't remember what it is, but hundreds of thousands. And actually, I helped put that into place with Mayor John Suthers back when. But it's just overwhelming. So, cleaning up the camps aren't something that we want to do because that's where it gets a little risky. For one thing, you don't want to confront homeless people. And we have very strict protocols about that. We also want to make sure that everything is taken care of that needs to be. And these camps have, they need trucks and backhoes and, it's mattresses and furniture and all the things that we can't put in a garbage bag. Mm. And so we're working with the HOT team. We're working with the Stormwater Enterprise. We're working with Neighborhood Services, which is the entity charged. And we're helping them and because they're overwhelmed. They really are. They can only do these major camp cleanups. And then Parks Department, tries to get people out there as well. But you go to a Dorchester Park or a South Tejon exit of I-25, somebody needs to be doing that, every day.
Yeah.
And so it's not easy for the city to have to deal with all this. And so we're just there to help, like any volunteer for the park department or any other department in the city.
I guess, and the other thing, too, is with the homeless encampments is that there's this legal issue about what's somebody's property and that you just can't take it and what's actually trash. And you don't want people going in there without having the appropriate knowledge, which is why the homeless outreach team, the HOT team with the police department, it's pretty much they take care of figuring out the legalities of what they can take and what they can't take and things like that.
Exactly. And in some cases it's every possession that somebody has in their life, right, including their, all the pictures of their family or whatever it is. Right. And so, or in some cases it's fentanyl. Right. And it's got to be very, carefully handled. Right. Because it's not a safe world out there in those ways like it used to be. And so I know everybody wants to say, let's just get rid of the homeless. Right. Let's put them on a bus or give them a place to live. And, but it's so complicated these days. Yeah. We do a great job in Colorado Springs, and I can fill up a whole show with what I know about the homeless outreach services that the nonprofits like Springs Rescue Mission and other ones do. Westside Cares. There's some great organizations out there, and we have a much better success rate than many other places. Our point-in-time survey counts are much less than they've been, half of what they were 3 years ago. And
the Parks Department, I don't want to get sidetracked here, but the Parks Department just instituted an urban ranger program with a 5-person, I believe it's a 5-person team that are also working with the HOT team and other groups to work on these, not just homeless encampments, but just rule enforcement in general, I guess is the best way to put it. So they're also eyes out there and kind of maybe their presence is preventing people from dumping more garbage out there on the trails and stuff and in the in the creeks and things that gives you less work to do, which is kind of good.
Well, and that's what we want. And there's a little bit of advocacy with our group as well. So I should explain that if people want to donate, that we do a little bit, but it's really just only around this issue. So we would love to see homeless-proof garbage cans all throughout the areas where they are. Because many of the homeless people, by the way, when we're out there picking up litter, they want to help. Right. And we sometimes will give them bags and give them a pizza. And they some of them really appreciate it, but there's no place to put the garbage. Right. Or no place safe.
So I've gathered all this stuff. Where do you want me to take it?
Right. Yeah. Or a garbage can that's easily dumped over. Right. So what's the point in that? But the biggest culprit are all the unlocked dumpsters that are along the areas where the homeless hang out, mostly the creeks. So every business, every apartment complex, we all have dumpsters, and that's what they go and get.
Right.
So we found out the first week we started doing this because we thought, God, this is poor Richard's garbage. Why is that out here? Well, they're grabbing a bag, they're shuffling through it, seeing what they can find, and then leaving the rest. And it could be 50, 60, 80% of what we pick up are big garbage bags of people's stuff. So many personal things we see. It's just a whole adventure. We found a big book by, Edgar Allan Poe. I found a big stuffed armadillo. It's just, but what needs to happen is we need to figure out how to go have those dumpsters locked, and easy to get into. The disposal companies don't want it because they have their employees paid by the job, not by the hour. So they're rushing around. They don't want to have to go fiddle with a lock. And that's really the biggest culprit out there. So what if there were homeless-proof garbage cans and locked dumpsters? Wouldn't that be a great gift to the rest of the community? Our volunteering would cut down, by 75%.
Right.
What if there were bathrooms? By the way, and that's something else that we are very careful about. Mm-hmm. We don't want people getting disease. Something we were very careful about. We don't want people getting sick.
Right.
Another problem, and we're maybe all guilty, but so we are, the city that loves dogs, a region that loves dogs, 250,000 of them. We just got an award for being the best place to walk your dog. We are the city in the country, the top 50 cities, that has the most dogs over 40 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So not only do we have dog poop, but we have big dog poop. And so, it becomes this ethic, and that's why there's a high E. coli count, among other reasons. But Fountain Creek, is just the receptacle. You couldn't have scripted a worse place to build so many impervious surfaces as Colorado Springs, because we have this high elevation drop. So, Fountain Creek starts probably at, 10,000 feet and it ends up at 4,200 feet in Pueblo. Right. With impervious surfaces everywhere. We built this place for cars. Huge parking lots. I was part of the problem on council. You got to require parking spaces and rooftops. And then we had a stormwater enterprise that my council, and I was very proud of it, Lionel Rivera and other people on the council back when, in 2005, put in place, like every other place in the country does. There's 1,400 stormwater enterprises around the country. We put in place, we charge people based on impervious surfaces, and then lo and behold, Doug Bruce shows up with his sign, "Stop the Rain Tax." Yeah. The voters overthrew it. So from 2005, first of all, we had a huge backlog, going back. But from 2005 to 2018, when John Suthers in the council I was on had the guts to put in front of the voters a stormwater enterprise, and the voters said yes. Right. Now we're finally taking care of it, but boy, the backlog is tremendous. So the EPA lawsuit, you'd think it would be all about all that raw sewage. That was a Sierra Club lawsuit. The EPA lawsuit was about all the growth that we had in the region or in the city that wasn't taking care of its water. And they had a good reason to sue us. Yeah. I wish they hadn't fined us and let us spend that money on the...
Yeah, how about if I just keep the money and just fix this instead of giving it to you?
More, right. Yeah. But anyhow, so yeah. But it's a legacy we need to start to disown here.
Well, we're obviously making some big headway into taking care of these things with your work and the stormwater enterprise and things that we are doing. I guess we haven't heard any complaints from downstream lately that things are getting out of hand. So I'm assuming that means we're making progress on. There's a huge. It was a huge puzzle, by the way, to have
a lot of this being taken care of south of the El Paso County line. And that's why the Fountain Creek Watershed Flood Control and Greenway District really existed. It was formed in 2008. I was one of the founders. Ken Salazar, I worked for him at the time, was a huge supporter. But it existed because Colorado Springs Utilities gave the district $50 million, which got leveraged to probably be 75 or 80 million. I'm not sure how much, in grants, to do good sediment control, water quality, fisheries, all these different projects between the El Paso County line down to the city of Pueblo, and did as much as they could. The nut for all that, by the way, is about 750 million to $1 billion. Oof. So 50 million was great. But by the way, the district now has probably used most of the money, and they're trying to remake themselves because they had a really good purpose. And now they can do some of the work up north. Right. Now, the reason that Colorado Springs Utilities gave them the $50 million was because of the southern delivery system. Because Pueblo really needed to be bribed, but for good reason. Pueblo County had to give us, through the 1041 process, the permission to build this huge pipe through their county to pipe it up to Colorado Springs, because Colorado Springs has been great in getting senior water rights. We owe a lot to our founders and previous council members and mayors, but if you took the Pikes Peak watershed, it would serve about 30,000 people. We get 65% of our water, raw water, from the Colorado River, 5% of our reuse. And you know the story of the Colorado River. Nobody has to tell you that.
Yeah.
So we import a huge amount of water. It would have been much better if we had built these big reservoirs up, in the mountains and had gravity take it down, but that completely destroys huge ecosystems. Nobody wants it. You still see the sign sometimes down by Buena Vista, "Don't let Colorado Springs dam the Arkansas." Yep. And, for good reasons, we didn't build them, but what we could do was put it into the Arkansas River, store it in the Pueblo Reservoir. People down there wanted us to expand the reservoir for them, and that was great. And we can pump it up. So we have 78 million new gallons of high-quality mountain water that we can use through the southern delivery system. We use about 65 million gallons today, Colorado Springs Utilities. So think about it.
A lot of water.
A lot of water.
Yeah.
And it's senior water rights. So we are lucky.
So it means that goes way back and pretty much untouchable for anybody else.
Yeah, what it's going to be untouchable for is for residential and commercial use. For people, but not so much for watering lawns, especially bluegrass lawns, or wasting it.
Yeah.
40% of our water use is for landscaping. It used to be 50%. And that needs to get better, because that's what's going to get taken away from us. The upper basin is what we're a part of, is negotiating now with the lower basin and with native peoples that also have a claim to it. But if you take the water that the Colorado River serves, if you take that geography, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world.
Wow.
What you get in King Soopers and Safeway, it's so much of it is Colorado River water. It's not just California, which everybody assumes. Las Vegas depends on it. Phoenix depends on it. Northern Mexico, where there's a huge amount of our produce that comes from there now. All that is Colorado River. So, yes, we can't waste it.
Yeah. Well, I spend some time in Phoenix every year. We have a place down there, and there's that big, huge waterway that runs, that man-made waterway that comes from the Colorado River all the way down into Phoenix, and watch that water level go up and down, and they're facing issues with how much water they have, and rampant construction, and it's like, well, where's the water coming from? And some communities have had their water cut off because they built them without a water supply, and they were trucking in water from somewhere else, and that guy said, I don't have any water for you anymore, so you got to figure it out, and it's gotten ugly.
Oh, gosh,
down there.
It really has. You can blame Carrier, by the way, who invented air conditioning.
Yes.
Because we shouldn't have so many people living in a desert without water. Phoenix has 95 golf courses. I think Las Vegas, has 60. It's just like it. And you fly over. I mean, how many swimming pools do you see? Maybe 150,000 to 200,000. I don't know.
I think Phoenix, I just heard this, had per capita the 4th or 5th highest number of privately owned swimming pools.
Yep.
In the country. It is a high number, which I'm not surprised. I mean, it's 130 degrees down there, or whatever the heck it is. It's ungodly. I don't know how 4 million people live in the Phoenix metro area year round. I get tired of it. By the end of April, I have to leave. It's too hot.
Yeah. It's a precious resource, I guess we can certainly say.
I xeriscaped I've been here 30 some odd years, and I xeriscaped my yard before xeriscaping was a thing, because it was like, I'm pouring a boatload of water on grass that can't grow.
Yes.
And all I'm growing is weeds, and I'm wasting my time. I plowed it all over, xeriscaped it, and have saved myself a bunch of money, and I have a nice looking yard without any grass. And it's just like, I don't know why we think we have to have Kentucky bluegrass at 6,000 feet and it doesn't grow here in this soil and stuff. But
no, exactly. And thank you for doing that. You were an innovator, and more and more people are doing it. But, it's not easy to reconstruct all these landscapes and then to have the right kind of irrigation systems that don't waste, and for people to get into their heads that they can't water in the middle of the day, even though that's when they have their day off and they want to be out there. But having said that, we are one of the few major cities in the state that doesn't have a residential landscape ordinance.
Right.
We have a commercial one. We tried to pass it in 2003, I think it was, an old council I was on, and it was the turf industry that said, no, we were going to lose 600 jobs. But having said that, we've gotten much better. We do what we call I say we as if I'm still on city council. They do what they should be doing, which is called low impact development. And so they now, require that new development augment soil and plant trees in certain places. And well, God forbid we would have to require people to plant a tree with leaves on it on the south side of their house.
I put up 2 in my yard when the mayor was doing for the sesquicentennial his plant a tree thing. I planted a couple of my front yards. So
oh, good. Well, good.
I try to do my part.
Yeah.
The Parks Department has done really well at, some places you have to have grass, baseball fields, things like that, soccer fields. They've done a really good job of, especially out of the TOPS fund every other year, they pay for pulling out an old leaky, inefficient irrigation system and putting in a newer, more efficient irrigation system. And as they're doing these, if there's a place that doesn't really need grass, like around a playground equipment, they'll put in some other surface that doesn't need to be watered. And so slowly but surely the Parks Department is doing their part too. Not all these places need grass, and these places that do need it, that irrigation system is 25 years old. We can't get parts. It probably wastes more water than actually puts on anything, and they're redoing irrigation systems. So there's a lot of things that can be done.
No, and Colorado Springs Utilities has been a big help with that, too.
Yeah.
They see the advantage. The city park department's the number one water user in the city.
Yep.
But, it's a lot of landscape to retrofit with all the different, systems that are much more efficient. And it's not easy for them to afford the money. I mean, I think you were on park board for quite a while, and are also on the TOPS.
I'm TOPS right now, yeah.
But the park budget has been the stepchild for decades.
Don't give me, that's a whole other topic you and I should spend a lot of time talking about.
We could talk for hours about that.
Let's get back to, this has been a great discussion about water, and I think a lot of people need to hear this, because water is, and right now we're having a wet year, these water levels are rising, but I'm trying to remind people that's just unless that happens for 5, 10, 12 years in a row, this is just a one bump. It doesn't mean that the water level that we've been watching drop is going to stay at this nice level it's been at. We've had a wet season, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. It's not about the weather, it's about I get in arguments with people about the difference between weather and climate, and that you're familiar with that, but it gets to be a little tricky. Let's go back to talking about the rubbish roundup real quick. Give us a rundown. How many people do you think or how many people are part of this effort from you? How much have you collected? Do you have an idea how many pounds, tons, tens of tons have you collected?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have brought my little note sheet of statistics, but I'll guess here.
No worries.
So I think we've had 1,200 volunteers.
Great.
1,500. Each one collects 2-3 bags of garbage each time they go out. We have people collecting, different times of the day and different weeks in different places. And so, we figured it was probably about 30 or 40 tons that we've collected so far. We're guessing. And then we've had, I think, 1,500 volunteers, so something in that range. But we just really launched. We just got going a couple weeks ago. We had a press conference. The mayor came, and so we think this could be much bigger and much broader. But we're very proud of what we have done, and a lot more needs to be done.
Yeah, there's always more that needs to be done, especially in a growing city such as this one. It seems to be just getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. Annexation is something else you and I should talk about.
Yeah,
I know the city's worried.
I have opinions.
Yeah.
I have lots of opinions.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
We're probably on the same page with that. We seem to be on the same page with a lot of things. We've had a great conversation about trash and water and people's, what they can do to help with all of these things, all of which is very important. Tell us again how people can contact you, how they can find Richard's Rubbish Roundup. I think it's richardsrubbishroundup.org.
.org, yes.
Perfect.
With no apostrophe.
And nobody works solo. It's one of the things I want to make clear is everybody works in teams so that nobody's out there by themselves and putting themselves at risk. Is that correct?
That's right.
Great.
And our hotline is 719-238-1161.
Right.
And just call if you see a problem in your neighborhood, or you see a garbage company with garbage, flying out because they didn't close the lid to the truck. Anything that you can see that we can then try to address, we are happy to do. And if you want us to give you a picker and some gloves and leave them with you, we're happy to do that. Really, it's not for us. It's $11 for a picker and 50 cents for the gloves. We're happy to do that if you would be able to use it in a safe and constructive way.
Excellent. You talked about locking the dumpsters in my city park in my neighborhood. They have a dumpster there because it's got a ball field and tennis court, so it gets a lot of use. And for a while there, that dumpster became the dumping point for everybody in the not everybody in the neighborhood, but I'm sure people came from all over the place, but dumping furniture and stuff that they didn't want. And the Parks Department or maybe the dumpster owner put a bar across it with a padlock, and all of a sudden that problem went away. And I'm sure it's more time. You talked about, they pay them by the load they pick up. It's more time. That driver's got to get out. He's got to find the key, unlock that dumpster, then put it in and put everything back and lock it back up. Probably doubles the amount of time it takes for him to just normally pull up, pick it up, and dump it and go. But it's reduced the amount of garbage that's in my city park.
Yes, and that's huge. And people notice that in their neighborhoods. We had somebody call us from Fountain, and she was able to deal with it on her own, but people were dumping in her construction dumpster that was out there because she was doing some repairs on her house, and she didn't know what to do because it was filling up and garbage was flying everywhere. And so finally she got the construction company to remove it. Yeah, right. But we were going to go down there with signs. We were going to laminate them and said, "This is trespassing," and and you can get arrested. We have cameras on this,
right?
Because otherwise, people are just going to do what's convenient, easy, and cheap, or free.
Yeah. Well, Richard, this has been a great conversation. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to see you out there. This is a great initiative you've started, and I think this is a great way for people to get involved. to do some good in their community. Everybody has different things they like to do in their community, and it sounds like it's hitting a sweet spot for a lot of people. You've got a lot of volunteers out there, and it's become a real thing. And I appreciate it as somebody who's lived in this town a long time. I appreciate the work you've done and that you are doing to make this place, this beautiful city we live in, a better place to live. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, happy to. And thank you, Bob, for everything you've done. I mean, you've been this tremendous asset for many of us, me included, about how to love and enjoy and experience our great outdoor life. It's the best city in the country. The best location in the country really is, because we have 1.1 million acres at our western border. We luckily have tops and a really good park department that's created, 1,500 miles of trails to walk your dog. And so, but we need to protect it, and we need to keep it a special place.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that, and I just love doing it. So. Anyway, thank you so much. And Richard, anything else you want to say to everybody before we go that I may have forgotten to ask you?
Well, if you don't mind, I have another two hours of diatribe about local politics, but I think you probably don't want to have.
I try to focus on outdoor recreation and stuff like that, but you and I can have a very long conversation about politics, but probably not something for the podcast.
Exactly. As people ask me a simple question, it's like 20 minutes later, I'm giving them.
I do the same thing.
I know.
Yeah, there's no simple answers to most of these questions that people come up with. Well, Richard, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate the work you're doing and the team you've assembled and the volunteers you've gotten. It's great stuff you guys are doing. So.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me. Invite me back anytime.
Absolutely. And with that, everybody, thank you for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. We'll talk to you next time.